Hello, my name is Lauren and welcome to the Theoretical YouTube channel where my Secrets of Dumbledore predictions didn't go great, but they also weren't the worst. Literally, as I handed the usher my ticket before the film, he told me there wasn't a post-credits scene at the end. But one thing that I did get right-ish is that there's some funny business going on with Jacob's wand. I guessed it would be some other sort of magical weapon that would make Jacob appear as if he was doing magic. But Newt explains that this is just a wand without a core, making it unable to channel a user's magical ability. So I was close, okay? But what actually made me throw my fist in the air during that scene, I wish that was a joke, was that Newt actually said this wand is made of snake wood. Which is a very niche Harry Potter fact to get excited about, but at the end of this video you'll know exactly why my brain started spinning wildly. Because the lore implications from that little tiny bit of information are simply massive. So sit back for a quick intro before I explain exactly why this wand is so special. Before we begin, there are spoilers for the new movie in this video, but what were you expecting? Okay, if this is somehow the first Harry Potter film that you've seen, there's a few things that you should know about wand lore. Actually, none of this was really in the films and barely touched on in the books, so this should be a good refresher for everyone. Every wand in the Harry Potter universe has two components, the wood and the core. The wood is the obvious one because it's what we can see and touch and buy from an overly expensive gift shop in Orlando. But the core is what makes a wand not just an expensive stick. Cores are what channel the magical ability, and typically they're made from a part of some sort of magical beast. For instance, Garrick Ollivander, who makes like 96% of the wands we see in the series, only ever uses dragon heartstrings, unicorn hairs, and phoenix feathers. But other wand makers have used Vela hair, Thestral hair, Kelpie hair, Kneazle whiskers, Wampus hair, Horn River serpent horns, you get the picture. If you can pluck it or shave it down into a sliver, you can shove it in a wand. But even though it only has two physical components, every single aspect of a wand's design helps us indicate its relationship to its chosen wizard. Because the wand chooses the wizard and all that jazz.
The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter.
For instance, let's break down Harry's wand because we know a lot of its specs. The wand is made from hollywood, which means it's best for protective magic and often seeks out users who are on a dangerous or spiritual quest. Gee, I wonder if that's on the nose. It has a phoenix feather core, specifically from fox, which means that it's capable of a wide range of magic and may occasionally act of its own accord. It's 11 inches long, which is pretty average and means that the owner is probably not overcompensating or lacking in some personality trait. And its flexibility is nice and supple, meaning that Harry himself is pretty adaptable to any situation that he's thrown in, like a cupboard under the stairs. So all of this to say that there is quite a bit of wand lore to go off of when we learn that Jacob is receiving his own wand, and it might tell us some stuff about his character. Except the only thing we learn is that it's made of snake wood. Okay, no problem. So what if this is a shorter video than normal? Let's just go to the Harry Potter article that contains all the information on wandwoods and see what it has to say about snake wood. Oh, nothing. Snakewood isn't even mentioned in the article at all, or the books, or any of the movies except for this one. You see, when Newt hands the wand to Jacob, he says that snakewood is a really rare wand material. What he doesn't say is that in all of Harry Potter canon, we only know of one other snakewood wand. The wand of Salazar Slytherin. You know, the murderous bigot who the other Hogwarts founders always crop out of their Christmas card pictures. Salazar locked a giant snake in the secret chamber I built into my school in order to kill Muggleborns hundreds if not thousands of years from now through my descendants because I can hold a grudge. Slytherin? Yeah, him! Slytherin actually has 3 family heirlooms that were passed down for hundreds if not thousands of years. His locket, his ring, and his wand. The locket and the ring stayed in the Gaunt family until Voldemort eventually tracked them down and turned them both into Horcruxes. But the wand was actually lost in the early 1600s. The Slytherin wand was actually passed down through a different branch of the Gaunt family that didn't directly produce Tom Riddle. Instead, they produced a young girl named Isolde Sayre, who would eventually become the founder of Ilvermorny and brought magic to what would later become the United States. Colonial European magic. Because her family was just awful, Iseult came to America by becoming a stowaway on the Mayflower and stealing her aunt Gormlaith Gaunt's wand, which, little did she know, was actually a Gaunt family heirloom. And if you haven't zoned out by now, you'll also realize that this was Salazar Slytherin's Snakewood wand. A ton of stuff happens when Iseult Sayre gets to America, but here's a quick summary. She meets a Pukwudgie, she falls in love with a nomad, she adopts 2 orphan wizard boys, she has twin daughters, she founds a school, she befriends a massive horned river serpent who gives her cryptic riddles about family, you know, normal stuff. Then good old pure-blood supremacist Aunt Gormlaith Gaunt strolls back into town and tries to kill Iseult's family / steal back the family wand. Specifically, she puts a magical lock on it in parcel tongue so that no one else can use the wand, and it can only be unlocked by a parcel mouth. In other words, can only be unlocked by a descendant of Slytherin, since that family has a monopoly on snake language, or so she thinks. Anyway, Gormlaith loses a fight against a Pukwudgie, frankly embarrassing, dies, and the wand stays locked forever. Because it's useless, Iseult buries the wand on the grounds of Ilvermorny, where it grows into a magical snakewood tree that has medicinal purposes. And in case you're thinking ahead, no! Jacob's wand is not made from wood from that snakewood tree because that tree canonically cannot be pruned. Meaning that Salazar Slytherin's wand is still the only snakewood wand we know of until now. So obviously I think Jacob is holding Salazar Slytherin's wand. And that's not a completely baseless claim. I do believe there is actual evidence to suggest that this is the lost wand of Slytherin. First and foremost being the specific emphasis that gets put on it being made from snakewood, which the film brings up again when Jacob is showing it to the Hogwarts students. In fact, the reason they are so interested in it is that Jacob told them it's made from snakewood, and they know how incredibly rare that is.
Can I?
Very dangerous.
Where did you get it?
And what Jacob doesn't know is how rare. The other detail that I noticed in the theater is that the wand design itself looks real weird in context. They do a suspiciously good job of hiding the handle for most of the film, but I swear that if you look hard enough, the end has like a creepy knob sculpted into like a skull. And with the winding knots in the shaft, the whole design just kind of looks evil? For a wand gifted to one of the most pure-hearted characters in the whole series, what's with the strangely off-putting design? Unless it's actually a Gaunt family heirloom that originally chose a wicked individual as its first owner. Now the other big evidence here is that Newt specifically calls this thing a wand. He says it's a wand without a core, but what's the difference between that and a stick? Literally nothing. If I go outside right now and I pick up a piece of wood, does that make this a wand? Is this a wand? Am I a wizard? No. Obviously not, and not just because muggles can't use wands because they have no magical ability to channel. But what I'm trying to get at here is that there's no such thing as a coreless wand. Either Dumbledore lied to Newt, or this is just a glorified stick. Obviously, this theory would be better if Dumbledore lied, and honestly would not be the first time. No, what this is a wand that can't do magic. Not if a no-mage is holding it, not if a wizard is holding it. And guess what? You know what wand can't do magic anymore and is canonically made of snakewood and has been lost for about 300 years, even though anyone who has ever studied the Gaunt family history knows exactly where it is? They just have to dig it up. Oh yeah, the wand of Salazar Slytherin, aka Jacob Kowalski's novelty rain stick. So what's the point? Why is it a big deal that Jacob is holding an ancient wizarding relic? Well, for one thing, it's what the wand symbolizes. Slytherin's wand in the generational hands of the Gaunts meant that it was the ultimate muggle killing weapon. The core is even made from the horn of a basilisk he hid in the school, bred to kill muggle-born centuries later. In fact, when Jacob was just waving this thing around the Great Hall, it's only 10 years before Tom Riddle opens the Chamber of Secrets and unleashes Slytherin's monster on the school. But if you really trace the inheritance, when Iseult Sayre stole that wand, she also created a new legacy. When she married a no-mage and founded her own magical school, which also had a house founded by that same no-mage, whose name is James Stewart, by the way. I didn't say that earlier, it's not really important. And Iseult and James's family represents everything her pure-blood mania heritage fought so venomously furiously against. One of their daughters was even born a squib, which is something we know other Gaunts thought brought great shame to the family name. Isolde Sayer's time with Slytherin's wand was used to bridge the gap between the magical and non-magical communities in America. The same work that Jacob's relationship with Queenie is doing hundreds of years later. It's not really clear how America went from having a magical school partially founded by a no-mage to having some of the most restrictive wizard-muggle relationship legislation in the world.
Not allowed to date no-mages. Not allowed to marry them, blah, blah, blah.
But at the end of Secrets of Dumbledore, Newt remarks that they are making history on the night of Queenie and Jacob's wedding. Since I would imagine that this is the first legal marriage between a witch and a no-mage in quite a while. Perhaps since Isolde and James themselves. So the fact that Dumbledore lets Jacob keep this wand might be considered a sort of olive branch. Not literally, of course it's still made of snake wood, but it just has a sort of cosmic irony that the ultimate weapon of one of history's greatest bigoted fascists now rests in the unassuming hands of a muggle. Oh yeah, and the wand isn't broken, it's just locked, remember? And all they need to do to unlock the wand of one of the most powerful wizards in history is just speak Parseltongue. So who's gonna do it? Which Parselmouths are even around during this time period? Obviously the Gaunts in England, Marvolo, Morphin, and Merope can all speak Parseltongue, but I highly doubt that they're getting pulled into the story.
I can speak to snakes too.
Tom Riddle is going to be starting Hogwarts in a few years, but I think it would have been a bigger deal if Voldemort had once come in contact with Slytherin's wand. And Harry Potter's just definitely like way, like 50 years out of the picture. But here's some more interesting options. There's a very small chance that Newt can speak Parseltongue, self-taught of course. But there are a lot of magical creatures that are either part snake or just outright snakes, and I hate them. And Newt is repeatedly shown to have mastered mating calls and other beast communication methods throughout different points in the series. Maybe it's crude or barely understandable, but what if Newt has studied enough snake language to be able to unlock the wand? Perhaps, but much more likely, we have Nagini. Oh yeah, the last movie introduced a woman who is destined to fully turn into a snake but can currently go back and forth and hates Grindelwald right now. Honestly, I have no idea why she wasn't in this movie. But if the only reason she was ever introduced into the Fantastic Beasts films was so that she could unlock the wand of Slytherin, well, it would make more sense than her being brought in just to be Credence's girlfriend for 3 weeks. And finally, I've got another curveball for you, Queenie Goldstein. And in my never-ending quest to make her a more important character in the series, I propose that Queenie could read a Parselmouth's thoughts and speak them out loud in Parseltongue. Maybe. After all, Ron Weasley opening the Chamber of Secrets by imitating Harry proves that you don't need to be able to understand what you're saying to speak Parseltongue. So maybe she reads Nagini's mind and then accidentally unlocks her husband's wand, because in case you forgot, if Jacob has the Snakewood wand, then Queenie is the character with the most potential to wield it. But you know, just a thought. Whoops, this theory isn't ridiculous enough yet. Feel free to quit now because I'm about to dive way past the reasonable conclusion for the evidence presented. You're still here? Okay, I warned you. Jacob Kowalski himself could be a descendant of Salazar Slytherin. Let's review. Isolde Sayer and Jacob Stewart were the first wizard-no-mage relationship in the Americas. And Isolde came from a branch of the Gaunt family that split before the birth of Tom Riddle. So any descendants from Isolde and James would be Gaunts, and therefore technically Slytherins. Well, their two most famous children, the other founders of Ilvermorny, were adopted, so no bloodlines there. But they also had two biological twin daughters, Ryanich and Martha Stewart. Hold on. Wait, they named their children Ryanich and Martha. And there's a Harry Potter character named Martha Stewart. I couldn't make this up if I tried. Anyway, Ryanich became a powerful witch and was a rumored Parselmouth at Ilvermorny. But she specifically chose to never have children so that the Slytherin line would die with her. I guess she forgot she had a twin sister? Because Martha Stewart was a squib who, despite growing up at a magical school, left the magical community to go marry a Native American nomad. And that's the extent of what we know about the Slytherin line on the Sayre side of the family tree. But there's a really good chance that a huge portion of the Slytherin bloodline aren't just non-purebloods, they're probably squibs. Or at least muggles with magical ancestry so far buried in the past that they have no concept of the wizarding world.
You do know I'm a witch, right?
And maybe a branch of that family left America for Poland, and then Poland for America. And maybe, I'm really emphasizing the maybe here, but maybe the Kowalskis are descendants of the Stewarts, who are descendants of the Gaunts, who are in turn descendants of Salazar Slytherin. And this would explain some inconsistencies with Jacob's character. Like, Jacob is clearly a nomad. On a biological level, the reason he has such a bad reaction to Newt Smirlap's bite is because wizards and muggles have different physiologies. But Jacob can clearly see and even visit Hogwarts, which was unclear at the end of Crimes of Grindelwald, but pretty obvious in Secrets of Dumbledore. And there's never really been a very good explanation as to why he didn't forget all of magic when he stepped into that obliviating rain. The reason that we do get is that the swooping evil venom only erases bad memories, and Jacob's time with magic was mostly great. Except that doesn't make any sense because his memory was clearly gone for at least a little bit of time. But you know who stood in that rain and had absolutely no problem remembering everything? Wizards. Literally every wizard. So if Jacob is a nomad, but descendant from a line of squibs that came originally from one of the most magical families in the wizarding world, maybe certain magical properties don't work on him, at least not to their full extent. Like, Filch can still see Hogwarts even though he's not magical, but he's a squib, so muggle repelling charms and illusions don't work on him the same way. And there's a really good chance that this is the case for Jacob too. And if Jacob is a Slytherin, then it's just so much more fitting for him to have that wand. For it to finally return as a family heirloom, but no longer represent wizard supremacy and muggle murder, but instead represent the long relationship between wizards and muggles and how it manifested in love. Just like the legacy Isolde Sayre unintentionally created when she stole the wand from her aunt 300 years before. Okay, I'm totally done this time. Pinky swear, I'll make a blood pact on it. But are you impressed that we got all of that from a single word? But honestly, if this theory isn't true, then why point out that it's made of snake wood? Why? But if you liked this video, please do so in the section down below and consider subscribing while you're down there. It's a big red button, they're fun to press. You can also follow us on Twitter at theory_central to learn Parseltongue, since Duolingo doesn't have it as an option yet. And consider supporting us on Patreon, like the incredible David W. and Alex Toquinto, who are obviously descendants of Slytherin too. Maybe we all are. So thanks for watching. The founding of Ilvermorny has a weird amount of lore for it to never be relevant in the movies. And I'll see you later.
I ain't a wizard. I'm just me.